What's poppin', Acolytes? It's me, MT, and welcome back to the Heavy Spoiler Show, y'all. Heavy spoilers ahead for episode 4 of The Acolyte, so if you haven't watched that, do that first before watching this video, you dingus. But anyways, let's just go ahead and get into this damn thing, my nerd babies. Episode 4 of The Acolyte starts with a shot of the foresty planet of Kofar, a planet that the Jedi would apparently station the Wookiee Jedi Kelnacca at for some particular reason. But I'm sure Kelnacca was all about that shit, considering that Kofar is not that different from the Wookiee home planet of Kashyyyk, as that planet was quite the green and foresty one as well, with all sorts of deadly creatures lying in waiting. And if you've ever played the Star Wars Fallen Order video game, then you likely are very well familiar with the jungle abominations that lie behind every corner, just waiting for the moment to make you shit your pants before you die.
What's this? Well. If it isn't a mysterious cave. What the? Whoa, my God! Oh, shit! Oh, fuck! Oh, Jesus Christ! No! I don't want this, Lord. I don't want this.
And like I mentioned in my breakdown of episode 2 of The Acolyte, while Kelnacca is the first live-action Wookiee Jedi we've seen in Star Wars history, he isn't the first Wookiee Jedi in the current Star Wars canon. The Wookiee Jedi Gungi would make an appearance in the 5th season of the Clone Wars animated TV series, and more recently in the Bad Batch series on Disney+, where we learned that Gungi was among the few Jedi that managed to survive Order 66. Not sure how you miss a big-ass, hairy-ass Jedi, but you know, it happens. There were also 2 Wookiee Jedi that existed during the Age of the High Republic, including Arkoff, who made his first appearance in 2021's The High Republic, Light of the Jedi, as well as the Jedi Padawan Burryaga Agaberry, who made his first appearance in issue 199 of Star Wars Insider. And even though we don't really see Kelnacca's lightsaber in action much before his death in this series, we do know that Kelnacca's lightsaber had a green blade, just like Gungi's did. And that's courtesy of the previews of Kelnacca's upcoming one-shot comic book dropping a little later this year in September from Marvel Comics that is meant to give us a backstory on Kelnacca's early days as a Jedi Padawan. Basically, I've learned if Marvel drops a comic of a character from their new series, that character is likely going to die. I remember them doing a similar thing for Captain Phasma before The Last Jedi came out. Kelnacca is played by actor Juna Suotamo, who previously played Chewbacca in The Last Jedi, The Rise of Skywalker, and the Solo movie. You know, everyone's top 3 favorite Star Wars movies. Suotamo is actually 6 feet and 11 inches, just like me, if I were a foot taller. And because that boy is so crazy tall, he's also a former Finnish basketball player, which is a super fun fact. When we get a look at the interior of Kelnacca's forest home, we see that his walls are absolutely covered with yin-yang imagery, ones that were presumably drawn by Kelnacca himself. And while the ones drawn in white are the easiest to see, Kelnacca did also draw some in black and red as well. And next to those scribbles, carvings of a couple of yin-yang symbols can also be seen. And why this Wookiee became so obsessed with drawing yin-yangs all over his wall, we don't know, but I do have a feeling that these drawings could possibly be Kelnacca's way of dealing with his guilt about his mysterious role in the destruction of Mother Anastasia and her coven, much like how Jedi Master Torben decided to undertake the brash vow of meditating on the Force for the rest of his days in his own quest for absolution. Anastasia's coven held the yin-yang symbol in high regard, with Mother Anastasia bearing the symbol on her forehead, before searing that very same symbol onto her daughter Mae's forehead during the Ascension ceremony. Due to the yin-yang's association with the natural balance and interconnectedness of darkness and light in our world, the yin-yang has also been used throughout Star Wars history to denote the same thing. So, knowing that Mother Anastasia's cult was obsessed with these is a strong hint that both they and the Jedi have similar Force beliefs in common, even though their doctrines and applications of the Force vastly differ. They both see the Force as an all-pervading universal energy field that has 2 facets, a light side and a dark side. And not only that, but Anastasia's coven also appears to believe in how the Force is also separated into the 2 categories of the cosmic Force and the living Force. And I think that is reflected in the poem that Mae and Osha chant to each other when they were kids. You're with me, I'm with you. Always one, but born as 2. As above sits the stars, and below lies the sea, I give you you, and you give me me. When they say, "as above sits the stars," I believe this is referencing the cosmic force, which I believe is the force tied to cosmic celestial bodies like planets, moons, and stars. And it's why I believe that the entirety of the world between worlds is surrounded by the stars of outer space. However, I believe the words "below lies the sea" is in reference to the living force, which I believe is tied to living celestial bodies like planets and the life that lives on those planets, like animals and people. The cosmic force has a light and dark side, which we can see when we look out into outer space, as does the living force, which is represented as life and death. So the force is very much a duality inside of a duality in a weird way, and I feel like these dualities are represented in Kelnacca's yin-yang drawings. If you look closely, there are actually two types of yin-yangs here, a dotted yin-yang and a yin-yang that looks like it's making ripples. The dotted yin-yang to me represents the stars that sit above, aka the cosmic force, while the yin-yangs with the ripples appear to look like a yin-yang floating on the surface of the sea that lies below. Two types of yin-yangs with two contrasting halves. And this theme is also represented in the Ascension ceremony from last episode as well, as those witches would use two cosmic force celestial bodies, aka their moons, on two living force beings, aka the twins. And like I've been saying this entire time I've been breaking this series down, the Acolyte is all about dualities, man, and I've been really digging how they've been utilizing set and costume design to illustrate this. Even Kelnacca's home is a bit of a duality in itself, as it appears to be a hybrid of what looks like a crashed ship or some other type of man-made technology that has somehow married itself with the natural roots of nearby trees. And then we see Kelnacca frying himself some type of greens to presumably eat before getting a classic Star Wars circle transition to the wonderfully busy planet of Coruscant, where we see the Thelan human Jeki undergoing training with her fellow Padawans under Jedi Master Laxey, played by Paul Bullion from The Witcher. During this training, Master Laxey tells his students to keep each movement tight yet subtle, diminish areas of vulnerability, maximize your defenses without need to strike. With that lesson being a clear reflection of the Jedi religion's light-sided teachings, one that champions the Force as a means to defend others by repelling attacks, rather than being a means of offensive attack. Osha observes this lesson before saying goodbye to Jeki and claiming that her sister Mae was the Jedi's problem now and not hers, with Osha being too afraid to confront her past in order to help the Jedi bring Mae in. Then we switch to Mae and Qimir arriving on the planet Kofar on their ship before removing their equipment out of these weird spherical pods, with 3 of these pods being present instead of just 2, which is mighty suspicious in my opinion. Qimir then reveals to Mae that despite Kofar being an uncharted planet that bounty hunters fear venturing on, he managed to be brave and cautious enough to navigate those forests to find Kelnacca in order to help Mae. And when Mae asks why he's been risking his life to help her, he seems to imply that he genuinely cares about her as a person and doesn't want her to get in big-time murder trouble with their master. And I think this compassion towards Mae might actually be genuine for Qimir, even though he kind of seems like a sketchy guy. But what exactly is motivating this generosity towards Mae is still kind of a mystery. It could be a romantic affection, it could be that he's lonely, or maybe, even possibly, it could end up being revealed that Qimir could end up being related to Mae and Osha somehow. Possibly as a brother from a horny mother. And by horny, I mean actual horns. Get it? Because Mother Coral has horns as a member of the Zabrak species. But that's just a wild theory though. The point is, Qimir seems to have an inexplicable allegiance towards Mae that goes beyond normal friendship or camaraderie, and I'm looking forward to discovering why that is in the coming episodes. Qimir then reminds Mae that her sister being alive does not change a damn thing because she made a promise to fulfill her mission to their master. But we will learn later on that Osha's survival had already begun to affect the suppressed light-sided goodness within Mae by giving her hope for her future, as the person that she once centered her life around was now back. But Mae would hide her changing heart from Qimir as they set off to find Kelnacca. Switching back to the Jedi of Coruscant, we are brought to a scene of multiple Jedi Knights looking over footage of Mae's battle technique, where we get the pleasantly surprising appearance of fan-favorite Jedi Ki-Adi-Mundi, as played by actor Derek Arnold, who is taking over the role from actor Silas Carson from the prequels. And knowing that the Acolyte takes place around 132 years before the Battle of Yavin in Star Wars Episode 4 A New Hope, this would mean that Ki-Adi-Mundi would only have a mere 113 years to live after this moment before his death at 19 BBY. So this would make Ki-Adi-Mundi well over 150 years old, with his exact age being unknown. In the legend continuity, Ki-Adi-Mundi was said to be born around 93 years before the Battle of Yavin, which would make that version of the character significantly younger than the Ki-Adi-Mundi that we see here. But Ki-Adi-Mundi is not the only Jedi from the Star Wars prequels that is alive during this High Republic era of the galaxy, as Yoda, Yaddle, the long-necked Yariel Poof, the hairy Oppo Rancisis, the badass Kirak Infila, who is my favorite Jedi, and the wise Terra Sanube should all be farting somewhere in the galaxy around this time as well. Other famous non-Jedi Star Wars characters that are also alive during this time period include Chewbacca, Dexter Jetster, Maz Kanata, and Jabba the Hutt. These are some old-ass bitches, y'all. And while our favorite big-headed Syrian Jedi has a chat with Jedi Master Holden about Mae's fighting form, Holden says that Mae is weak because she lets all of her emotions guide her strikes, before stoking the Jedi's fears by bringing up the possibility that Mae could be part of a splinter order of Force users, or possibly something even worse. And during this moment, you can see just how much the fear of the Jedi guides their decision-making. And it's a fear that this arrogant group of Force users will neglect to acknowledge for the next century or so to come. Because it is that very arrogance that would lead the Jedi Order of the prequels to be so easily manipulated into self-destruction by the Phantom Menace in the shadows. A Phantom Menace who made the Jedi so scared that he effectively killed the very idea of what the Jedi were supposed to be. Keepers of the peace. Palpatine made the Jedi into fearful soldiers instead of hopeful monks, effectively killing the Jedi's ideology long before exterminating them with Order 66. Because that's how you truly kill the Jedi without a weapon, in my opinion. Because at the end of the day, to the Sith, the greatest weapon of all is fear. And I believe no one in that room is more afraid than Jedi Master Vernestra, who later reveals that she believes Mae to be a small but significant part to this mysterious Dark Master's overall goals for the cosmos, as she implies that what is about to happen in the series is somehow going to lead to an event that was designed by their enemy to quote-unquote tip the scales, with that statement to me being foreshadowing to the coming rise of Darth Sidious and his unnatural abomination of a child, Anakin Skywalker. Like I mentioned in last week's breakdown, the revelation that Mother Coral gave birth to the twins as a result of the lead witch Mother Anasea's dark force magics could potentially be a revelation that is huge for the future of the Skywalker saga to come, as it seems like the series is on the path to showing us the story of how the Sith came to know how to unnaturally create life with nothing but midichlorians and the Force, which is something that Darth Plagueis learned and taught to Darth Sidious. So I believe that it'll be the Sith's discovery of this secret witch coven pregnancy force technique that will end up being what tips the scales from the Jedi having absolute rule over the galaxy to the growing influence of the Sith that will eventually lead to Palpatine's galactic empire. During Vernestra's meeting with the Jedi, she arrogantly says that it's clear that Mae specifically had training from a Jedi, when that is actually straight up an assumption due to the Jedi making sure that they were the dominant Force cult in the galaxy. I mean, who else but the Jedi could have trained their enemy in the ways of the Force if the Jedi made sure that they had the political authority to decide who gets to wield the Force in the galaxy, right? And that's exactly what Mother Anasea was trying to tell the girls in episode 3 of this series, regarding how the Jedi's conflict with the Coven is merely just a matter of power and who gets to use that power. The Jedi started those witch hunts out of fear of what those witches could become, and I feel like that could have made them do some pretty dark-sided things like hunt them down. But personally, I think that Mae probably only looks like she had Jedi-type techniques due to her special Force dyad connection with her sister Osha. I think that somehow, through the Force, Mae may have absorbed some of Osha's Jedi combat knowledge while she herself was learning her own dark-sided combat techniques, which is why her combat could have some slight resemblance to Jedi training. Because like Osha and Mae always say, you're with me and I'm with you. So a little bit of Mae could have been present during Osha's Padawan Jedi training. But that's just a theory. There is obviously the possibility that our mysterious Dark Master is truly a fallen Jedi after all, but I would honestly be surprised if that was the case. But hey, anything can happen. But what is super suspicious is how, before the Jedi end their meeting, Vernestra tells the Jedi to not tell the Jedi High Council of Mae's movements and their personal plans to apprehend her, with Vernestra underscoring the Jedi's overall fear of losing favor politically if anyone should learn that someone with Jedi training was attacking them. This right here is a perfect example of how the dark side influenced the Jedi without them being aware of it. As soon as the Phantom Menace introduces themselves, the Jedi freak the hell out out and start worrying about how that Phantom Menace could take away their life as they know it. And because of that, the Jedi are now practicing a bit of hiding and deception of their own rather than practicing proper protocol, because they feel like the ends justify the means. And after the meeting, Saul convinces Vernestra to bring Osha along on their mission to retrieve Mae, as Saul believes that there will be less of a chance for the Jedi to have to resort to fatal measures against Mae if they dangle her beloved sister in front of her as a bargaining chip. But hey, what about that Mae attack on the Wookiee? Don't worry about it, because the scene quickly shifts back to Mae and Qimir on Kofar as they journey to kill Kelnacca without a lightsaber, something that Qimir tells Mae that she has to achieve soon because she's running out of Jedi to kill. During that conversation, however, Qimir reveals a key bit of information about this Dark Master, particularly how they apparently like to collect people like himself and Mae, which implies that this Dark Master is building some sort of army or coven of loyal dark-sided acolytes to one day use against the Jedi. But whether or not that army is actually Sith-affiliated has yet to be seen. However, the chances are slim considering that, during the prequels, we do learn that the Jedi High Council of the future believed the Sith to have been extinct for 1,000 years, implying that the Jedi of the High Republic never received official reports of Sith activity at all. But hey, since Vernestra's group of Jedi did decide to hide their secret mission to Kofar to themselves, maybe they all end up dying at the hand of a potential Sith and taking that information to their graves. Who knows? Then, when Saul goes to bring Osha along on the mission, I could not help but be absolutely distracted at the sight of what I thought was a cute-ass cat Jedi behind Osha. But that Jedi is actually a member of the Tar-Lafar race, with the most well-known members of this race being Ailish, who recently appeared in Bad Batch Season 3, and Wameth, who was played by Star Wars vet Warwick Davis in Solo: A Star Wars Story. When convincing Osha to confront her past, Saul tells Osha that there is still good in Mae, which is a saying that has been said a couple of times in Star Wars movies, specifically by the dying Padme about Anakin, Luke Skywalker about Darth Vader, and General Organa about Kylo Ren. Saul's faith in Mae shows how much hope Saul has in his heart for those who are led astray, the mark of a great Jedi in my opinion. On the Jedi's trip to Kofar, we learned from Yord that after being stationed on Kofar by the Jedi, Kelnacca had not made any contact with the Jedi for a whole year, which either implies that Kelnacca had some sort of resentment towards the Jedi, which would keep him from reaching out, or he was straight up killed a year ago, which would be kind of wild and really weird considering that his body is sort of kind of fresh when Mae finds it at the end of the episode. But anyways, while following their tracker Basil, Osha discovers that Yord speaks Basil's race's language after choosing to learn that instead of the Wookiee language of Shriwalk like Jedi typically do. And as Basil leads the Jedi into this dark and deadly forest, Osha immediately senses the living force of a big-ass hidden bug when all the other Jedi didn't notice a damn thing when they were actually surrounded by all of these actual living creatures. This reflects Osha's overall affinity towards life in general, just like she had when she was a little girl. And it also shows how Osha is very much the light-sided twin of the bunch. After Saul uses his baller-ass Jedi skills to kill that bug, the Jedi know that the creature was actually drawn to the light of their lightsabers, much like a moth to a flame. And if that's the case, I have a feeling that these creatures are not just sleeping on these trees, but could actually be absorbing the sunlight that these trees produce. Like I brought up before, every living thing in the Star Wars universe possesses a connection to the living force, and it seems to me that these bugs might just thrive on absorbing that light of the living force from these trees directly. And in a similar vein, I suspect that creature might have sensed the strong light side of the force within Osha and attempted to absorb it within themselves. I would love that a whole lot if so, because that would be purposely reflective of Mae's attitude towards her bright sister Osha when they were kids, as Mae sought to hog all of Osha's light for herself. And a little later after this, while Osha talks to Jecki about her not being able to accept the deaths of her family like a true Jedi should, Jecki tells her my favorite line of the entire series when she says, "We're not defined by what we lose, we're defined by what we survive." I love that line so damn much because it's so damn true. How we reacted to pain in the past does not define who we are today. We are defined by the lessons we learned from those experiences and how we learn to move forward despite our pain. Without trials, there is no growth. And that right there is also reflective of the yin-yang theme of this series, because even though dark times may be tough and can sap the life out of us, the experience and wisdom that these trials can bring to our minds can bring us towards life-changing enlightenment that amplifies our growth exponentially. But speaking of the yin-yang, right after my favorite line of the series comes my favorite camera shot of the series. Because check out this sunset shot, gang. As the camera lowers so the mountain starts to cover the right side of the screen, check out how the mountain and the sky split the frame equally and cover equal parts of the frame with the sun in the middle. Like, as soon as I saw this, I was like, oh my god, this is magnificent cinematography, as I feel like this is symbolic of a yin-yang of sorts, with the light side on the left and the dark side covered by mountains on the right. Like, I freaking love that shit, man. But anyways, a little bit after this, Qimir senses Mae's hesitation and tries to encourage her to keep going by disappearing for a little bit to get some water, with Mae then preparing a trap for him while he was gone. A trap that he quickly springs before Mae tells him that Osha's survival has convinced her to give herself up to the Jedi and tell them everything that she knows, even though her former master might seek to kill her as revenge for that. And while on her way to Kelnacca's place, Mae runs into Basil the Tracker, who immediately tries to alert the Jedi of her presence, causing Mae to make a mad dash towards Kelnacca's, only to discover Kelnacca's dead body slouched on a chair with a fresh lightsaber wound on his chest, a scene that seems to imply that Kelnacca was slain where he sat. But this seems odd to me. I highly doubt a Jedi like Kelnacca could be taken by surprise, because not long after this, we see Osha and the Jedi sense the oncoming approach of the dark-sided master through the Force quite easily, giving them enough time to prepare themselves. So to me, either Kelnacca willingly chose to welcome being stabbed in that chair like He Who Remains did in Loki, or maybe possibly that food that Kelnacca was making at the beginning of the episode wasn't food at all, but a poison that he was willingly taking to end his own life out of guilt of what happened on Brendok, much like Jedi Master Torben did, with the dark-sided master finding Kelnacca's dead body and then slashing it while it was already slumped in the chair, possibly in an attempt to keep Mae from killing him herself for some reason. I don't know. Either way, Kelnacca's death feels like there's more than meets the eye there. But anyways, this of course leads to the end of the episode, where a mysterious masked menace finally makes an appearance before the Jedi after descending from the sky like some sort of scary Poppins. The design of the Master's mask is rad as hell, with its red scratch marks and its weird design on the bottom that kinda makes it look like it's smiling maniacally. But I particularly love how it barely allows any light to enter the mask, with only a tiny slit available to see through. This shows that whoever is behind that mask is overwhelmingly powerful with the dark side of the Force, so much so that limited sight is no problem for them when fighting a whole squad of 8.5 Jedi, which is immediately evident when one lift of their arm sends an entire Jedi squad flying away. But what was most interesting to me here is how this Dark Master willingly chooses to not kill Osha despite being face to face with her and igniting their lightsaber right next to her. Instead, they merely fling her away and focus on eliminating the Jedi. Just like I said in my previous videos, I'm pretty damn sure this is Coral, y'all, because I can't really think of a good reason why Osha wasn't immediately murdered on the spot right then and there, unless that person had some sort of connection with Osha like Coral has. But then again, this person could also be Qimir, due to Qimir having been closely focused on Osha's face before when they first met in episode 2. Qimir's attachment to Mae could explain why a masked Qimir could be hesitant to kill her sister Osha, even though Osha is the reason why Mae betrayed him and tied him up in the first place. And we did see that there was that mysterious third clothing pod outside of Mae and Qimir's ship when they first arrived. A pod that could have possibly housed a change of clothes for Qimir should he decide to go full emo as the master. But I don't know, man, I'm definitely leaning more Coral than Qimir, but something tells me that Coral and Qimir are closely linked in some way. Let us know in the comments who you guys think is behind the mask. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this video. You can follow me at Mastertainment on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, wherever I am on the internet. But most importantly, follow Heavy Spoilers here on YouTube. And when you do, make sure you hit that notification bell to get notifications for every time we upload a video. And also feel free to like this video as well, because every thumbs up really helps out the channel. But anyways, you guys are amazing. Thank you guys so much for watching this video again. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.